Gallagher.
I love on Uncle Rico's show, which I did this morning. Fantastic episode, and we'll talk about why it was so good. Not because of me. Not because of me.
For once, you brought nothing to the table.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'm just saying you had a bigger guest than me. But
You should come to his house for dinner more often.
One of the things that Shuli is, and those guys have been bringing up, is John's air quotes, because he always does the air quotes thing. Not only does he use them at the inappropriate times, but he doesn't even do the air quote thing anymore. Like his fingers just like
He's like Tua.
He's like,
like I don't know how many people watch Deadliest Catch, but they have this thing where like the new guys, the rookies who start working on these crab boats, after like one day of work, their hands just claw up like this from all the work. And not only does he not know where to use them, he never stops using them. He just keeps going through an entire paragraph.
The doctors call them Coors claws.
That's why he's the best.
All right, so people have been talking about this. If you're following this on Dabblers Anonymous, if you're watching Uncle Rico, then you probably know this story, but I do want to summarize because this is so amazing. Shuli was somewhere in Long Island this past weekend doing stand-up shows, sold-out show Saturday night, and you had a gentleman approach you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did like 2 weeks worth of shows out in New York, and the last weekend before I went home was in Long Island, a club called McGuire's in Bohemia. The owner's a great guy. I've known him for years. He owns 3 clubs out there. They're all great. And on Thursday, before the Friday night show, I get a call from a good friend of mine. You guys may know him from Howard TV and the E! Show. He was the head camera guy, Brian Phelan, a guy that everyone loved and everyone loved hanging out with. And he gives me a heads up because he was coming to the show. I always see him when I'm in town. And he's like, listen, I happen to run in the similar circle with a couple of John's friends still till this day. And he says, one of these guys asked me if I know this Shuli guy who's a comedian. And I said, yeah, I know him. And he goes, yeah, John wants us to come down to his show this weekend and give him a talking to for making jokes about his family and his kid. And and Brian's telling me this, and he's going, now listen. He goes, I know these guys. He says, you got nothing to fucking worry about. They're not going to do anything. He says, but I just want to give you a heads up. Somebody may show up. Somebody may approach you. And I said, okay, I appreciate it. And I wasn't worried about it. My opening act as a former FBI agent that weekend. Security there is very tight. They don't fuck around in these guys' clubs. So I wasn't worried about it. Friday night comes and goes. Nobody approaches me. Saturday night, sold out. And High Pitch Eric is there. And High Pitch and I are sitting at the bar. And the showroom's on the other side of these closed doors. And the show has started. And all of a sudden, this guy walks by. And he's in like this denim jeans jacket with the sleeves cut off.
Ooh.
As soon as I saw that, I go, that's his buddy. Yeah. I'm like, that's the dude.
Equivalent of a white-on-white tie in Long Island.
So he kind of walks by me, doesn't say anything, and then comes and walks by again, and he goes, how you doing? And I go, good. How are you? And he goes, I'm good, but, you may want to lay off this podcast, goofing on Stuttering John. And I turn around to like fully look at him, and that's when I see he's using a cane. Okay,
Jesus Christ!
And now, because my whole plan was when this guy, whoever these guys are, when they confront me, I'm pulling my phone out and I'm recording this and I'm posting it on Rico and everything. But when I saw that cane, I was like, is this for real? Like,
it's easier just to kick it out.
Yeah,
if I walked briskly, I'm out of danger. You understand? Like, I said when I was telling the story, if this show was on a second or third floor, this would have never happened. The guy would have never walked in. But he and I go, excuse me. He says, yeah, you may want to lay off that podcast about John. And I go, says who? And there's only 3. Meanwhile, the FBI guy, security, everybody's in the other room in the show. I'm alone with High Pitch, who is staring at me and looking at me and going, what the fuck is this about? You whisper high pitch, which is the scariest high pitch of them all.
He's not going to be helpful. Let's put it that way.
No. And so I go, oh, are you John's friend that he told to come down and talk to me? And then he gets into like when guys pretend to be lawyers on cops when they get pulled. He goes, nobody told me to do anything. And I go, oh, but you're here to threaten me and scare me. Nobody's threatening anybody. That's all. And he starts hobbling away. And as he gets to the door, he goes, just so you know, Huntsville ain't too far away.
And, it actually is.
That's why I yelled to him. Yeah, I yelled to him. It's 14 hours by car, FYI. And he goes, I ain't going to be driving. I said, okay. I said, well, there's an airport in Huntsville. You don't have to go all the way to Nashville. You can land in Huntsville. And he goes, I ain't going to be flying either.
Oh.
And that's when I started laughing.
He's coming by sea.
I'm going shipping cargo. He's like... So
did you follow him out to his handicap spot to get his license plate number?
So now he walks out the door, and I go into the green room, and I tell Anthony, the other comic, and Vinny FBI, and I go, hey, John's guy was just here. He just talked to me. They're like, what? They're all stuffing their face with food. They don't know. And we all go outside. And we go outside, and Anthony Zenhauser starts filming the guy walking away. And I swear to you, when we saw the footage, I'm like, is this the Bigfoot walking through the woods footage? It's awful, but you can make out the cane a little bit. And I'm
on the Patreon for the Shuli Show, Uncle Rico. So I get a notification about this video. She was like, hey, this is the video of the guy. I don't know any of the context. I didn't know anything about this. I'm a little out of the loop. We were traveling. So I just click on the video, and I'm like, did Shuli mean to post this? Like, that's embarrassing. I didn't know what the fuck it was, but apparently it was enough.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, how dumb is John? Like, you're sitting here saying you don't punch down, these shows are meaningless, you don't give a shit about them, you don't go on Reddit, then you copyright strike all these shows, you try to get them taken down, you join the Patreons to try to get them down, and then you're like, you're dumb enough to send somebody out to like, you're 57-year-old man. You
covering all my bases.
You said earlier, this, no bounds to his stupidity. It's just every time you think, well, that's the dumbest thing he's ever done, he goes, hold my beer. I'll top it.
Right. Actually, I'll hold my beer.
Yeah. I don't trust you.
Is he just like drunk swinging at this point? Is that pretty much what this all is?
Well, so the craziest part is that he obviously put out this notification to multiple buddies of his. Those guys in New York who aren't real happy with what we're up to over here. Yeah. Those same guys. We're a little too far for them to get to.
Turns out they were okay with us.
We're fine. But apparently, this one guy showed up, and it's so funny because Brian Phelan was fine with going on your show today and telling everyone that he was the one who leaked this to Shuli.
Yeah.
And let him know, like, just so you know, John is trying to get people to intimidate you, which is, by the way,
illegal. Wildly illegal in New York.
It's criminal what John is up to.
How legal do you think it is doing it over state lines, too?
I mean, it's insane.
And again, I don't hate John. I didn't go to authorities. Authorities
might
came
be
to me.
RICO predicate.
Right. Right. Authorities came to me. A detective in Long Island, another couple cops reached out to me. You'd be amazed how many Uncle Rico fans there are. I personally think the judge listens regularly to WATP and Rico. But yeah, like, if I wanted to be a dick, I could, and I feel bad for his friend. His friend, like, he doesn't know me. I don't know him. He's clearly not doing well in life.
Right.
And he takes time out of his life to go do this for who he thinks is a friend. If the shit goes down, John does not have your back.
No.
He will throw your crippled ass under the bus so fast. And
that's how you got crippled in the first place.
Yeah. Probably. So I was just like, man, I don't want to blow up this guy's spot, but I do want people to know. And I tell the story, and within 3 hours, Reddit has his full name, his pictures, clips from the beer on the balcony that he was a guest on.
Who was
John, if you're gonna hire a goon, make sure you don't have a digital trail of him and you on a show together sharing stories.
So this is the best part. Chris, I don't know if you know about this yet. Is this news to you?
The entire thing?
Yeah.
You were talking about it last night.
Oh, I was talking about it last night. So this guy, Danny, who went on Beer on the Balcony back in March, and we covered it on Who Are These Podcasts, because the only reason why he had him on his show was because we were goofing on John for his autobiography and saying that all of his stories from his childhood were fake, and he was lying.
Oh, yeah.
So then he had to get Danny on just to recount all of these stories. Yeah. And it's so funny. We played a couple clips on Uncle Rico today where John,
the stories are not ones you want to share.
Right.
Like,
they're not things that you would brag about or even remember very well. And John's literally going, so I would like tap a girl on the shoulder, and my buddy Pat would rip her bra off, and then we'd go running, and she'd chase us, and then the cops got involved and called my dad, and then they called your mom, and what did your mom say? I'm like, who would remember a conversation when you're 11 years old about what your mom said to you? Like, what kind of storytelling is this? What's going on?
And then it goes to like people, dabblers who start posting, pictures of this guy, his wife, their personal shit. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want this for this guy. But again, John, only thinking for himself,
of course,
doesn't understand the repercussions of doing something like this. I didn't tell anybody I want to know who this guy is. They delivered it on a silver platter for me. And then John goes on Twitter and makes a comment about how I'm trying to stay relevant. I made up this whole story. I watched too many mob movies. Yeah. That's what it was. And I made up this whole story. And that's when I reached out to Phelan that night. I sent him the screenshot, and I'm like, listen, I'm just asking you. It's up to you. If you want to go on and you're cool with saying that you're the one who tipped me off, that would be awesome. I would love to do that, because it just throws a fucking stick right in the spokes of this fucking lie train, whatever the fuck he tries to do. And Brian was like, I'm there. He's like, I'm Team Shuli. I've known the guy for years. We did mushrooms in Amsterdam together. One of the greatest guys ever.
He's like riding a bicycle or something.
Yeah.
Could have thrown in the spokes of his bicycle because of all the lies.
I know. I'm not stoned enough. You guys rushed me here. Go ahead.
So
this is completely insane.
This is completely insane. So John pretty much put a hit out, and maybe it's not a hit. He's just trying to intimidate Shuli.
You know what to do.
Exactly. And
every day he solidifies that he is the next Eric the Midget. Yeah. Every day.
Dude, honestly, he's the funniest whackpacker still in existence right now. Of all the Whackpacker sagas, I can think of a few that are amazing, but this one's been going on for so long and it's getting so good.
Shuli.
Yeah.
Now that the serious lawsuit's over with.
Oh, yeah, we haven't mentioned that yet. John lost his lawsuit on his birthday, and I have clips to talk about that.
It was his birthday?
Yeah, it was his birthday. I know.
Actually, Carl, you're wrong. It was all of our birthdays yesterday.
I am celebrating October 4th from now on.
Is that why I ate a cake?
Yeah, no, you eat a cake every day. That was breakfast. What are you talking about?
That was a fat joke. It was great. Go ahead.
Shit. So let me ask you this question. Now that this lawsuit's over, what are the odds that there's so many people at Stern Show that you say listen to this stuff and know what's happening? What are the odds that Howard finally decides just to bring this to the air?
He should.
I mean, I think it's a real long shot. I really do.
He won't,
I don't
but
think
he should.
So.
Because it really would be the most compelling radio. If all of a sudden Howard came out on a Tuesday morning and went, Robin, remember John? Remember Stuttering John? You won't, Robin.
Let's start at the beginning.
You won't believe.
It's no Fisty Gary, but whatever.
Yeah, it'd be a little funnier than Fisty Gary, in my opinion.
It'll bring more eyes to the show than Megan Trainor singing all about that bass or whatever the fuck song that was.
He just had Rosie O'Donnell on again. Like these Howard Stern fans are interested in Rosie O'Donnell's take on anything. You know that, right? Let's bash Stuttering John. That's what everyone wants to do.
There is a part of him that will never die, that he loves a good fight. Let's make it happen. I'm ready to rock. Let's do it. You know what? Somebody on Twitter had a great idea. Just let WATP and Rico do a couple hours on 101. Throw some of that content on there. You don't have to talk about it.
By the way, Shuli, that was my idea.
Oh, was it? Sorry, I'll unblock you. I apologize.
It was some bozo on Twitter. You're right.
Some idiot, some fucking moron.
Well, no. What's funny about that is after he lost the judgment, someone said, "Well, we should celebrate that on Howard 101 all weekend." I said, "The best way to celebrate this is to never play Stuttering John ever again on SiriusXM, because honestly, that's what keeps him relevant in the way he wants to be relevant. Is the fact that there's a national channel with 30 million subscribers that plays his old bits, and he decided to sabotage. Only Stuttering John would be like, "That's no good. That can't be. Got to get rid of that."
Wait till there's some fucking Roku channel that plays old Jay Leno Tonight shows.
There won't be. Jay Leno's show's done. It's over. John was on one thing that people still care about, and he fucked it up. He's such a moron.
He had a sweet gig as the sidekick sitting in third row in the audience, and he blew it.
It's called the John Chair.
All right. So this is
Also known as 1A.
I hate how Reddit doesn't play with audio when you first play it. All right. This is John talking about, so this is on his show on his birthday from yesterday the 4th, and he's talking about losing.
Drop the needle anywhere, folks. There it is.
I know.
I love that.
Oh, talk about a birthday present. I find out today that I lost my lawsuit against Sirius XM.
And my brothers.
Now, I don't know. Do you think those judges just wanted to give me a little dig on my birthday? Either way, I want to thank my attorney, the great Michael Popak.
The great Michael Popak.
Is the best. He worked hard.
The best at what?
Yeah.
What is he the best at?
Answering the phone when you call.
Yeah. He's the best at going to Yankees game with me.
I've never worked with a guy who's so unavailable, but on top of things.
I listened to Popak go in front of the panel of 3 judges on the appeal. He had no answers for anything. They're like, "Yeah, but do you have any evidence that any of this happened?" He's like, "Well, not yet. We don't have anything yet." It's like, "Sir, you have to have evidence. Like, that's the whole point of this." He was terrible.
I think at one point he said, "Your Honor, we believed there would be no math involved in today's questioning."
Yeah.
Sorry.
They're like, "Well, what are the damages here? What do you want for this?" "Well, we don't know. We don't. What kind of lawsuit is that?" Like, the great Michael Popak's not so great when it came to this lawsuit. It was not
It turned
good.
out to be a bad court thingy.
It's not your fault, Mike. They're trolls.
Bad court thing.
No, I thought we had a good case, but whatever.
You didn't.
You know,
You're an idiot.
Michael's the best, and I do appreciate it. It was funny. It happened on my birthday. I couldn't help
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Yeah, it was
couldn't help but
hilarious.
chuckle. I was
Most
talking to my
laughs he's
brother.
ever gotten.
He goes, "Why are you? Why does it seem happy?" I'm not happy, but it's just
I'm
funny that they
deranged.
did it on my birthday.
There's a difference.
Jody, hi.
Was he what is he fucking
He's
laughing
fucking cracking,
about?
dude. He's
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah,
cracking.
Then he's right. He's losing. I'm not laughing. I'm crying with laughter. That's all.
All
It's,
right.
No, something's in my eye.
I think I know why they decided to put this through on his birthday, if I could be so bold here.
Oh.
Like, because Judge Karate in New York let Sirius beat me in that lawsuit. Guess what? I just filed for an appeal because he's a fucking asshole. That judge. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand law. He's too old to do it. But I'll tell you this.
Did the great Michael Popak ever tell you not to call the judge an asshole who's ruling on your case?
Many times.
Yeah, right. He probably did, actually.
Even,
That guy's the
his-
best.
yeah. Even his guest, The Undertaker, didn't think it was a good idea.
Would you call him Brett Michaels?
I love Gorilla.
All right. Shuli, do you have a minute? Do you want to play some recent Beer on the Balcony with Richard Roper?
I ain't going anywhere, dog. Let's do this.
Excellent. Let's get into this because the latest Beer on the Balcony, and I have to say, another amazing thing they have, there's so much Stuttering John news going on right now, is that he tried once again to copyright strike our channel for clipping Beer on the Balcony. And this time, thankfully, YouTube stepped in and said, sorry, it actually said, Dear Stuttering John, this is not a violation of copyright law. People can use it. And they gave all the fucking fair use reasons that John cannot comprehend. It's not fair use. It's behind my paywall. He's so stupid.
I don't even think he's I think he's forwarding it to somebody to read it for him. That's what I think. I don't even think he goes, what are all these words?
I would love for an attorney to sit down with him and go, John, Why do you think this is a copyright violation? They keep telling you it's not. Patreon's told you that. YouTube's told them that, what, 4 times, 5 times now?
Do you think they haven't, Carl?
Good point.
Fucking wet brain over there.
Yeah, good point. So anyway, in celebration of that, I thought we'd pull some clips from the latest Beer on the Balcony, and it starts off with John. He's very excited to have a movie critic on his show because, as you guys know, John's a movie director.
Yeah. That's the last person I would want
I
on.
love that this guest said yes. Now, I don't know if he knows this, but I'm an NYU film major in the Tisch School of the Arts. I wanted to be a director because I thought that I really wanted to be an actor, but I figured that my stutter would prevent that. So then I took up on directing, and I got great grades and made some great films for a student filmmaker.
I can't wait to tell Richard Roper about my grades at NYU. He's going to be so impressed.
Great grades.
Did he at any point do the joke about stuttering and the yelling cut and costing X amount of money? Because I know he used to do that joke.
He didn't do that joke, but he did.
It's so bad.
He did
It's
hit
so
the greatest hits on this one. Like, it's so embarrassing.
God.
All right.
And listen to him. He's like, and he's got to give himself points for everything. You know, everything's a point system. And I had great grades. You graduated. It's like, all right. Like, you don't need to fucking,
Yeah, it's fine.
spit shine the fucking thing. Let's go.
So he's going to explain to us that he's a film buff in only the way the Stuttering John can explain that to us.
Finally got my dream come true, at least one of them, when I wrote and starred in a movie that I sold to National Lampoon, which I had a lot of part in some of the direction, even though I do credit the director, whose name is Michael DiLorenzo.
I had a lot to do with a little bit of the directing.
I'm just saying, could have been better.
Right. That's the dumbest brag I've ever heard, by the way.
It's not well directed, that movie, I can tell you that.
That wasn't a brag. That was trying to set himself up for plausible deniability later.
Yeah, right.
I was going to tell him it was better. I could have done it better.
I already feel so bad for Richard Roper because he's got to sit through this, but just bring him on. Bring him on.
Yeah. No, this is the build-up for it.
So that being said, I'm a film freaking maniac. I mean, if this guest would see my room.
You can be a film fanatic or a movie maniac, but a film
or buff,
freaking maniac.
Hey, man, the guy's just chewing the shit, all right?
Yeah.
Chill out.
Check this out, because this is funny. He kind of breaks the fifth wall here because he's got a green screen, but he starts looking around the green screen at the stuff that's in his room to prove what a film buff he is.
Oh, no.
I mean, if this guest would see my room right now, I got Star Wars. I got La Vita è Bella. The Italian of Life is Beautiful.
He's looking around his green screen.
Star Wars Episode 1, the original poster that George Lucas only gave out 500. And I have George.
So far, he's got 2 Star Wars posters. I'm a big movie guy. I got 2 Star Wars posters.
I got all those VHSs from Blockbuster I never returned.
Hey, you guys are sneakerheads like I am. I have 2.
Anyway.
Yeah, I have 2 or 3 sneakers at least. So I'm a huge.
Hold on, Shuli. I got
guy.
my sneakers over here. Hold on. I got Adidas. I got Nikes.
I got slippers. I got house shoes.
Crocs over here. Very impressive, John.
Clogs.
Wars. I have It's a Wonderful Life. And now, without further
How ironic.
explanation,
Fucking
let's bring
Clarence would
on
have told him to jump.
great film critic from, I hope I got this right, Chicago Sun-Times. And I believe it was Ebert and Roper. Say hi to Richard Roper. Richard, how are you?
Say hi. Who's he talking to? Say hi to Richard Roper.
Dick Rope. Roaches? Roper. Roper meet the roaches.
I think he thought Ebert was still alive and was going to be on with.
So, check out the low expectations of a guest of Beer on the Balcony. This is the first thing Richard says.
John, you're batting 1,000 so far. You got the introduction right, the newspaper right, the TV show right, the titles of the. I say we end it now on a good note. We do the George Costanza thing. Good night, everybody.
And that's the fastest someone wanted to get out of an interview with Stuttering John.
That beats the record so
That's
far.
impressive right there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just
Well,
love that
he
he goes, you knew my name, you knew my profession. Wow, I'm impressed.
Well, he watched the Elon Gold interview, and he's like, well, the low battery bit doesn't work with this guy. I got to figure something else out.
My child is drowning in the pool. All right, one more question.
And the way you read your own resume was amazing.
That's great. All right, so I love this because John doesn't say, I have so much to ask you, or we have so much to talk about. The first thing he says is, I have so much to tell you.
Of course.
Well, just to prove how much of a Pulp Fiction. Oh God, I have so much to tell you, Richard, in such a short period of time. Hold on.
I got to take a break.
Well, one of the things that you learn in film school is how the directors use the camera and use their choice of what's in the scene to depict what's going on or to foreshadow what the character is or who he is.
So,
What a fucking asshole this guy is.
what an idiot. He goes, I learned this in film school. I would just go for marketing and I knew that. The director determines how to shoot the movie? Yeah, no shit.
I got news for
what's
you.
in the seed?
Yeah, Richard Roper knows more about filmmaking than you do, and he didn't go to film school. What do you think of that?
Correct.
John,
He's
what's
sitting
all this
here-
about cameras? Go back, John.
Yeah, wait, what do they do with the camera? They shoot?
It's
What?
such a condescending dickhead move to have somebody on from a field that you are no way an expert in. I'm not saying Richard Roper is fucking Steven Spielberg, but it's Richard Roper.
He's probably talked to Steven Spielberg many times.
I doubt
100%.
John can afford to go to the movies. So
right. He's just impressed. I saw a movie on the big screen.
And now he's going to lecture him and tell him how movies are made and what parts. Oh my God!
All right,
this
so
guy's unbelievable.
This is more of John proving how smart he is. Now remember, he just brought his guest on. He hasn't even asked him a question yet, and John's already getting into how he knows stuff about movies that other people don't.
Like even when you go back to the book Death of a Salesman, Willie Loman.
Sure.
And Spielberg does it all the time. Hitchcock did it all the time. Tarantino does it all the time. So I don't know if you know this one, but this is my favorite, one of my favorites. In Pulp Fiction, do you remember when John Travolta has to give Uma Thurman the adrenaline shot into her heart? In the foreground, on the shelf, are 2 board games. Take a guess on the 2 board games.
Oh, no. Is it like
Operation and Life.
That's fantastic.
I mean, that's a fact you learn taking a shit in somebody's house and reading whatever books on the goddamn bowl.
Or there's like those YouTube videos with the catchy titles, like 10 things you didn't know about Pulp Fiction. Oh, okay, I'll watch that for a second. Why not? And that's the first thing John wants to tell Richard Roper.
Yeah. That's a really good flex, John.
Wow, impressive.
that face is the face of a child whose mother just put his picture on the refrigerator.
And we're proud of you too, Johnny. You are.
Yeah, here's a
I'm
green
just
star.
stunned.
I
I'm
know.
stunned from
It's
this.
insane. All right. So you were talking before about how John doesn't realize the level of guests that he's talking to. So he talks down to them because he thinks everyone's as dumb as he is. Like,
Right.
I'm convinced John has no idea that we don't get scared about copyright and cease and desist and all the things that scare him don't bother us because he doesn't realize that we're not as stupid as he is.
Hey, Richard, how far away are you from Long Island?
So this is John. This is just classic Stuttering John right here. And watch Richard's face.
And I'll tell you, this is how it all comes around. You'll love the story, Richard. So when I was the announcer and a writer on the Tonight Show, I was on the staff as a writer,
Right.
and I used to write a lot of cold opens. That's like the sketch before the show starts. It's like in SNL, live from New York.
Yeah.
Like that.
He's like, Chad, I know what a cold open is.
Now all he does is open cold ones.
Could you imagine? You're telling Richard Roper what a cold open is?
It's just unfucking believable.
It's so stupid. No, what they'll do is they'll film what's called a pilot.
You ever seen the show SNL?
You know
It's
they
like
do that
having-
live, right?
Yeah, he would have like Michael Jordan on, and he'd be like, when I dunk on my Nerf hoop in my room when I was a kid,
When I beat Shaq at basketball.
Yeah, you were
Right.
talking about Jack.
the technique I like to use, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's called palming a basketball. Have you ever heard of that?
He actually had to find a still frame of the scene he was talking about in Pulp Fiction to show Richard Roper that those 2 board games, and Richard's like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's
And
exactly
who
what you
cares?
just said.
Like, where do you?
I believed you. I didn't think you were lying.
Yeah, where do you go from there? Like, what? That's like going. Somebody, hey, did you know there's lyrics to taps? Get the fuck out of my life. Get out of my life.
Shuli, you and I were talking about this today on your show, where John will let the guest talk, and John's not paying attention to the guest.
Nothing.
So when the guest stops talking, John has a mini panic, and he's like, okay, so the next thing, like he doesn't have a conversation with anyone. It's
When
not-
did you start doing stand-up comedy?
Yeah, it's not, yeah. Oh, because I do stand
And
up.
why?
And why?
Yeah, it's like a guy waking up behind the wheel and just crossing all 4 lanes as soon as his eyes open.
This is an example.
I better do something.
This is
Right.
This is an example of course, John wants to find that still frame of these board games, and because of it, he's not paying attention to his guest at all.
The whole thing was just horrible. And it was also like one of those things where we're just reminded of the ego and the narcissism that permeates Hollywood.
Yeah. Okay.
You mean this podcast?
I'm not going to let you have to wait to go watch Pulp Fiction. So let me show you this.
Even the way he says it, I'm not going to let you have to wait to go see Pulp Fiction. Because Richard's like, okay, I'll check that scene out. That's cool.
Do you know, this is such a great example of what an absolutely clueless from top to bottom podcaster John is.
Yeah.
You have a guy like Richard Roper on,
Yep.
and he's willing to do your show once. Talk to him about what's in theaters now. Talk to him about something that's interesting.
Let the guy talk.
Yeah, let the guy say a word, but do something that would be interesting for the listeners to get this guy back on your show.
Vinny, you don't know the half of it. Not only does he not do that, he decides to slam all movie critics to Richard Roper's face. I don't know what he thinks Richard's going to do with this one.
All right, Richard. Now I'm going to ask you something that, and this has been my pet peeve, and I'm going to get it because, just so you know, when Siskel and Ebert were guests on the Stern Show,
Sure.
me, of course, because I felt it was my mission.
Wait, he was on the Stern Show? He never
Oh,
brings
I didn't
it up.
know that.
Yeah, he never
I didn't
brings it
know
up.
that.
That's interesting.
To go
Has
back.
he ever been involved in a roast? Do you know?
If he,
I don't know.
If he says anything that his mission was to answer the phones, he's wrong.
I felt it was my mission to go back and pull all the rotten, bad videos, not videos, the bad reviews
Yeah.
that they would give to great movies. And one of the distinct ones that I pulled out for Ebert is that he gave, and God rest his soul, because he was great, but he gave The Godfather 2 3 stars and gave The Godfather 3 3.5 stars. And I went in on the air with Howard, and I go, Roger, The Godfather 3 was better than The Godfather 2? Come on, man.
What a great question.
Way to let him
roasted.
have it. Yeah, way to let him have it on the air, John.
How ridiculous is that? He goes, you're a movie critic. There's this other movie critic who I think made a bad judgment call.
Yeah.
It's off by a half a star. And I realize Godfather 3 is way worse than Godfather 2. I'm not arguing that point. But it's not he's like, thumbs down on Godfather 2, thumbs up on Godfather. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, well, whatever mood you were in or the context of the time, like, there's reasons why this happened.
Don't worry, Richard. I took care of it.
Yeah, believe it or not, there are some people out there that like Godfather 3 more than Godfather 2.
Shut
and one
up.
of them was named Ebert, according to John. And so that's the thing. It's their opinion,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Well, that's what Richard Roper has to explain. It was like, well, it is subjective, John, and sometimes you have an opinion about something, and
he's a 57-year-old man with a child's fucking brain, with a 7-year-old brain.
imagine you have Richard Roper on your show, and you're like, man, Ebert really fucked up, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Richard's gonna be like, yeah, well, that guy always was an asshole.
Yeah, like, what do you think he's going to do? And we're talking about, when did Godfather 3 come out? 82?
No, like 90.
Oh, was it 90? Okay. He's talking about something that this happened 32 years ago. And this is like, who cares? Why are you bringing this up? Like you were saying, when we can be talking about like modern movies, what's good? What have you seen recently?
Yeah.
What's
What directors do you like that are upcoming? Give me something here.
Yeah.
There's a
What
new
was it
Top
like?
Gun movie.
What was it like working with Ebert when he talked through a fucking computer? What was that like?
Yeah, right. When he was missing his chin, did that
Better
bum you
than
out?
this. Way better
Yeah.
than this. Less drool.
He actually did look better than John.
Yeah, that's what
After
it
the
was. He was
surgery.
missing half his face. I thought it was like a computer, but he did talk through like a computer.
Yeah,
thing,
he
too.
wasn't real good at communicating at that
I
point.
guess you have to if you don't have half a face. Well, the weed's kicking in. We know that. All right, go ahead.
Look at John, how smug he is, because he just said that Roger Ebert was wrong about a review that he had.
Of course, nothing makes him happier than calling out someone who's dead and can't defend themselves.
Right.
I blocked
He's
him just
impressing
in
his new
case.
friend Richard.
Right? He did the ultimate block. He waited till he died and then talked shit about him.
All right. So I kind of skipped past this, but you notice that he brought up Pulp Fiction right away.
Yeah.
And he did that on purpose because he wanted to talk about Quentin Tarantino. And you know why he wants to talk about Quentin Tarantino, right? He wants to talk about the time that he directed Quentin in a cold open on The Tonight Show. And he's so proud of himself. He has to tell his new friend Richard about it.
Quentin goes way off script for like a minute and a half. And I go, cut. I go, Quentin, this has got to be 30 to 40 seconds long. Please stick to the script. And he goes, okay, John. Okay, John. And I'll tell you, Richard, as I'm walking out of the room, I go, I can't believe Stuttering John is directing Quentin Tarantino.
Isn't that amazing?
You know, either act like you belong in show business or you don't. You got to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
The fact that he keeps rehashing this story and he tells every guest, so anyone who's watching John's a fan of John's like, yeah, we know this, John. Let the guests tell a story that we don't know.
Yeah, he's so dumb. He doesn't understand that he's saying to people, can you believe this fucking idiot's directing Quentin Tarantino?
Right. Yeah, and by the way, yes, I am shocked by that. It is crazy.
Right.
It doesn't make any
Right.
sense.
Aren't I a moron,
Yes.
Richard? Isn't that great?
But what a weird conversation to have with somebody.
He thinks he's
But
being
he does that a
self-deprecating.
lot. Wait, it's
no,
he does this.
maybe.
He does
That was
this
a brag.
a lot. Like when
Yeah.
Hal Sparks talked about how dirty his place was. He's over the moon with joy, laughing about this shit. When I saw the army major guy, Ojeda. When he was talking about how dirty John's car was, and John's dying laughing. Ojeda's like, it looks like there was just 3 weeks worth of trash piled up, and he's going, like. I don't get it. I don't get it. He's so sensitive, but loves when people shit on him that he knows, I guess. I don't know.
I think he's the kind of guy who would describe all of his personality flaws as just part of my charm.
Yeah. That's his OCD, you know.
I have to collect all the garbage.
It's
And I
the
am
total
very
package. I am very sensitive, sure.
All right, this is the last clip I want to play from Beer on the Balcony. Maybe some other things to cover, but this is John fucking up, and it's by far the best part of the show.
I don't care about Fast and the Furious. I do care about Bullet with Steve McQueen or The French Connection with Gene Hackman, which has better car chases, but they're actually grounded in reality.
Something happened. I don't know.
For a while, it was just me, which I kind of enjoyed. I was going to...
We all did.
I'm like, finally, a podcast I'm going to watch, The Richard Roper Show.
Yeah, he was making some points there for a second.
Who are these podcasts? WATP.